Hello everyone, welcome to the daily newspaper analysis of the Shankar IAS Academy brought to you by the Civilspedia team, and this video is for the current affairs for the day 17th of December 2024. Now let us look into the topics for the discussion. The first article titled Can't Draw Parallel Between Tuticorin and Virinjan Ports, Center Tel Kerala from the Hindu talks about the Indian major ports. Next article titled Rann Utsav, Explore India's Only White Desert from the Indian Express talks about the importance of the festive Rann Utsav as well as the locational importance of the place Rann of Kutch of Gujarat. And the next article titled In a First, All Women Shift starts at Tata Steel's iron ore mine from the Hindu focuses on the mining sector of India and also the legal frameworks associated with it. And the last article titled Solid Waste Data Not Furnished Yet, SE Warns Delhi of Contempt from the Indian Express discusses about the solid waste management and this solid waste management rules of 2016. So without any further delay, let's get into the articles discussion one by one. Now moving on to the first news. The first news is about the Rann Utsav, which is a vibrantly cultural event which would be celebrated annually during the month of December to February. And this initiative comes under PM Shri Narendra Modi, where there is showcasing of the Gujarat's rich heritage culture, which includes their cultural art and traditions, folk dances, and at the same time to promote their tourism and at the same time promoting their economic development through sustainable practices. So let us look into the geographical feature of the Rann Utsav where it is celebrated. So the festival Rann Utsav is celebrated in the Kutch region of the Gujarat in the village called Dordo village. The place got its name from the Sanskrit word called Rann, which means desert. So Rann of Kutch is one of the world's largest salt desert and it is also known as the White Desert. And let us look into their formation. So early they were known to be the shallow waters of the Arabian Sea, and in the upcoming years they eventually turned into seasonal marshy salt desert. Now it is also known as the marshy salt desert during their monsoon seasons, where they would be containing the water and they would be turning into a wetland, and during the summers it would be turning into a crisp salt desert, thus giving the naturistic view of a white desert. The Rann of Kutch are also known as the home for the Indian wild asses. Now looking into the festival Rann of Utsav, they have been recognized as the one of the best village tourism initiative in the year 2023 by the United Nations World Tourism Recognition, where they recognize villages which supports rural development, which promotes sustainability, their cultural heritage, and at the same time their culinary traditions, and also which preserves their landscapes and having a sustainable growth and so on. So the event Rann Utsav got its award for being the best village tourism initiative in the year 2023, and this initiative was earlyly launched in 2021. And this year the theme of Rann Utsav would be to promote sustainable development and at the same time to bring in their unparalleled beauty when it comes to their moonlit skies, and also supporting their local culture and economy through various factors, and we would be seeing those factors. The factors which are known for promoting the Gujarat's vibrant traditions would include folk dances like the Garba, Ras and the Kutchi dances, music performances which can be recognized as their local music forms, then including craftsmanship and their traditional local work, which would be including embroidery, woodwork and jewelry, and at the same time promoting their traditional food which is called as the Kutchi cuisines. The event is also not known for promoting the cultural heritage, but at the same time providing a lot of adventurous and scenic attractions for the tourists in the Kutch region, which would be including paramotoring to have an aerial view of the desert, having the hot air balloon event, having kite festivals, having camel rides, and having a lot of desert safaris, which also includes tents and so on. So now I hope there is a clear understanding about the event, about the location of the event conducted and the activities aligned to it. So let us move on to a prelims question according to this topic. Which traditional activities are showcased during the Rann Utsav? The options would be folk dances like Garba and Ras, music performances, desert safaris, traditional Kutchi cuisines. And the answer would be all these statements. All these statements are right when it comes to the event of Rann of Utsav. Now moving on to the second news, the Tata Steel Company has initiated the first all Indian women shift for the iron ore mining. So in regarding to this article, let us see few legal frameworks related to the mining. The first one is the Mines Act of 1952, where the act focuses on the regulation of the safety and the health and the working conditions and the welfare of the workers who are into the mining sector. So they include the allocation of the staffs for the mines. The other objective would be bringing in regulation for the safety standards during accidents and so on, and it also prohibits the involvement of child labor, and it also brings in provisions for women's safety. And this condition has been brought in through the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2020, which is the OHS code of 2020. So this initiative has been brought up by the first firm in India to deploy women in all shifts and mines following the centre's decision to relax the Mines Act of 1952. So through this act, the including of women's participation in the mining sector is a significant and a landmark initiative. And this initiative is being supported through the OHS code, where there is relaxation of the Mines Act of 1952 to bring in women's safety standards also. Now the next act would be called the Minerals and Mining, which is the Development and Regulation Act of 1957, where the act focuses on the mineral resource and regulation and their development. It brings in regulation and guidelines for the minerals allocation for their optimal use. Next would be bringing a fair allocation for granting the guidelines of the resources. They also include bringing in revenue generation for the state governments through royalties and taxes and so on. And they also focus on their environmental protection by the land resources. So under this act, the minerals are classified into two categories. The first one would be the major minerals, which includes coal, iron ore, limestone and bauxite, and they are subjected to lease agreements. Whereas the next category would be minor minerals, where it includes sand, gravel, clay and so on, and they are subjected to having been regulated rather than being in a lease. So they are regulated through bringing in permits for the minor minerals. So under this act, the mining concessions have been divided into three permits. The first one would be the reconnaissance permit, where it includes the initial or the primary exploration or the primary permit for the exploration of the land resource. Next one would be the prospecting license, where there is even more detailed and deep exploration and surveying of the land resource and the mineral. And the final one would be the mining lease, where they have given the almost all the right to extract the mineral. And these three concessions are granted by the state government under the approval of the central government. The act also mandates bringing in the royalty payment to the government based on the percentage of the mineral value. And if the area is not being utilized properly, there is a payment for the non-utilization of the leased area, which is known as the dead rent. Thus, under this act, the central government controls major mineral operations, which automatically aligns with the national interest, such as the global development. And at the same time, the state government control the minor mineral operations, where they would be granting leases and permits and so on. And under this act, there would be provisions for the illegal mining. So here penalties and confiscation of the equipment are also made if there is any cases of illegal mining. And the District Mineral Foundation, which has been established under the MMDR Act of 1957, addresses the environmental and other social impacts when it comes to the mining, which is almost the addressing the consequences of the mining also. In recent times, in 2021, the MMDR Act has been amended and brought in even more broader objectives, where it also includes seamless transfer of the mineral concessions. It helps in the removal of the end use restrictions, where the before the amendment, there would be restrictions after the end use of the minerals, but now after this amendment there would be even more concessions brought in even after the end use of the land or the mineral. And next is having an e-auction for the captive mines, where there is granting of licenses and permits also through online. And I hope now the MMDR Act has been clearly mentioned. And let us move on to the next legal framework, which is the National Mineral Policy of the 2019. And these are the objectives which would be easy to be understanding, where they include sustainable and transparent mineral development, bringing in ease of doing the businesses, and bringing in the public private partnership, where there is involvement of private investment and technological promotion, also brings in intergenerational equity, and at the same time bringing in sustainable mining practices, and there is importance for their ecosystem restoration, and also having a long term export and import policy which aligns with the larger aspect of the national interest, which is the global development through economical processes. Now, before finishing off this article, let us have a small glance on the India's mining sector. Here, their GDP contribution are approximately to 2.5 percentage in 2022, and among the global ranking, India's mining sector is one of the fourth largest producer. India is also known to be the second largest steel and barite producer, third largest chromite producer, and been a significant thorium reserves, where India is almost a home for 25% of the thorium reserves, which includes the monazite sands of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. So I hope this article brings in the topic of few legal frameworks and a glance into the mining sector and the minerals and so on. Now moving on to the next article. This article discusses about the Indian ports. Here the Kerala government has asked for the viability funding gap for their port called Virinjam port, which can be seen as a parallel to the Tuticorin port, which has been denied recently by the center. So in light of this article, let us see the major ports of India, which is very relevant topic when it comes to UPSC. So the Indian ports are divided into two major categories. First one is the major ports and second one is the minor ports. So the major ports are controlled and managed by the central government, and the minor ports are managed and governed by the state governments. Here in total there are 13 major ports, where 12 are government controlled and one port would be private port. So before moving on to the major ports of India, let us see what is a viability gap funding. It is a funding mechanism which has been introduced by the Indian government to bring in a support for the infrastructural projects which are economically necessary, but initially it is financially unviable. So therefore, through the models of the PPP model, that is the public-private partnership model, there would be financial support provided to attract private investments for such projects. Now looking into this, this is the map for the major ports of India. So looking into this map, there are, as I discussed before, there are 13 major ports in India and almost 200 minor ports in India. So these ports are very crucial when it comes to handling large volumes of cargo and facilitating international trade, and ultimately providing a key for India's economic growth. So let us look into the 13 major ports of India. First one would be the Kandla port of the Gujarat, or the Deen Dayal port of Gujarat. It is the largest port which would be handling cargo, and it includes items like petroleum, fertilizers and grains. The next important port would be the Mumbai port, which is one of the oldest port in India. It involves liquid cargo like the crude oil. Next one would be the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust of Maharashtra, which is the largest container port, and they are also involved in import export cargo. Next one would be the Marmuga port of Goa, where they involved with items like iron ore, which would be traded to countries like Japan, China and Europe. Next one would be the new Mangalore port of Karnataka, which involves products like the petroleum products, fertilizers and iron ore. Next one would be the Cochin port of Kerala, where they are strategically a very important port, and it also include items like spices, tea, coffee and fertilizers. Next one would be the Chennai port, where it is one of the oldest artificial port, where it includes items like containers, automobiles and petroleum. Next one would be the Ennur port or the Kamarajar port of Tamil Nadu, where it is the first corporized port which includes items like coal, automobiles and so on. Next is the Tuticorin port, which is in Tamil Nadu, or the VO Chidambaranar port of Tamil Nadu, which includes trade links with Sri Lanka, and it also involves items like fertilizers, chemicals and petroleum. Next one would be the Vishakhapatnam port of Andhra Pradesh, where it handles iron ore, petroleum products, and it is one of the deep water ports. Next one would be the Paradeep port of the Odisha, where they are known for carrying products like iron ore, petroleum and fertilizers. Next one would be the Haldia dock complex under the Kolkata port in the West Bengal, which is one of the oldest ports of India, where they also involve products like jute, tea and coal. And the final would be the Port Blair port, which is located in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where they are known for their local trade and also regulating passenger traffic, and it has been established in as a major port in 2010. Now, I hope we have seen the 13 major ports, and let us look into their governance and economic role of these major ports. So, all of the governance of the major ports comes under the Major Port Authorities Act of 2021, and before it was Major Port Trust Act of 1963. Here, the economic contribution of those major ports almost handles over 60% of the India's cargo's traffic. And ports like Paradeep and Kandla are very critical for their importance of energy security and trade. Now let us see few government initiatives to boost these port sectors. First one would be the Sagarmala project of 2015, where they focus on the post modernization, port led industrialization and bringing in an improved connectivity through the networks. Next is the Maritime India Vision of 2030, where their aim is to bringing a transformed Indian ports, which involves high class and world class infrastructure and stands as a world class hub. And finally, the other government initiative would be called the port connectivity, where there is development of dedicated freight corridors or the DFCs near the to link the hinterland, which is nothing but the area behind the coast or shoreline to a river. Now moving on to the last article for today, the Supreme Court has warned the Delhi government with a contempt of court for not providing a solid data on the solid waste management under the rules of solid waste management of 2016. So in this light of the article, let us see what is solid waste management and all of the topics related to it. So solid waste management refers to a systematic management of waste through collection, segregation, transportation, treatment and disposal of the solid waste for promoting an sustainable environment. Now let us look into the sources of these solid waste. First one would be the residential, where it includes household. Next one would be the commercial, where it includes markets, hotels and offices. The third sources would be the industrial, which would be including industries and factories, and the final sources would be the institutional, which includes schools, colleges, government buildings and hospitals. Now let us look into the type of waste. First one would be the biodegradable, which includes organic waste and other food scraps. Next one would be the non-biodegradable, which includes plastic, metal, glasses and so on. And the third and final would be hazardous, which includes medical waste and e-waste. Now let us see a few legal frameworks where there is management of the solid waste. So the first and most legal framework to manage the solid waste would be Solid Waste Management Rules of 2016. So this rule, the Solid Waste Management Rules of 2016, was earlierly known as Municipal Solid Waste Management and Handling Rules of 2000, and now it has been changed to Solid Waste Management Rules with even more stricter guidelines. So this framework is issued under the Ministry of Environmental, Forest and Climate Change. under the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Again, the Act ensures to promote proper segregation, transportation, collection, treatment and disposal of the solid waste to promote sustainability. So let us look into few key features of this Act. Here it gives importance for the segregation of waste at the source, and the source is divided into three streams. First one is the wet waste, which is the biodegradable. Next is the dry waste, which is the plastic, paper, metal, woods and so on. And next is the domestic hazardous waste, which should be involving diapers, mosquito repellents, napkins and so on. So not only just about the segregation, the Act also involves processing of the biodegradable waste, where the biodegradable waste would be treated through the process of biomethanation in the own premises. The Act also involves user fees and spot fines, where the segregated biodegradable solid waste and the other solid waste would need to be given to the collector, and they should be provided with a user fee. And if the segregation is not done properly, or there is littering of those solid waste, there can be given spot fines by the collectors. And it also involves responsibility of the manufacturers and the brand owners, where manufacturers of the disposal products like the glass, tin and so on need to be given financial support to the local authorities, and also need to be given financial support in providing or to bring in a waste management system. Now we have seen a thorough analyzation of the solid waste management rules, and the other rules related to solid waste management would be plastic waste management rules of 2016, where they help in minimizing the plastic waste generation, preventing littering and also brings in segregation of the storage of plastic waste. And the other legal framework would include biomedical waste management rules of 2016, where there is even more proper focus of the disposal of biomedical waste from the healthcare facilities. So these two topics are even more discussed in detail in our previous videos. So I request the aspirants to look into those videos also. And the other few legal frameworks would be initiatives like waste to wealth portal, where there is identification and deployment of technologies for waste treatments, energy generation and recycling on so on through the solid waste. And the next one would be waste to energy initiative, where it converts solid waste into energy. So municipal solid waste are converted into electricity or heat, which can be used for the running of the industries. And next is the project replan, where it aims to produce eco-friendly carrying bags from the treated plastic waste along with the cotton fiber, and this can be initiated with the ratio of 20:80. Now after seeing few legal frameworks and few initiatives, let us move on to an initiative called the Swachh Surrection of 2023. It is an annually conducted cleanliness survey by the Ministry of Urban and Housing Affairs, where this initiative is created to encourage these cities to improve their solid waste management and sanitation practices. And this initiative comes under the Swachh Bharat mission for urban. And to look into their few key features, they would involve in assessment of the waste collection, segregation, processing and disposal. Ranks are provided for the cities based on their cleanliness parameters, and there is a lot of importance for local participation and citizen participation. So for this year the theme was waste to wealth, which we have seen the objective in our previous slide. Now I hope there is a broad understanding about the solid waste management, and now let us move on to a prelims practice question. As per the solid waste management rules of 2016 in India, which one of the following statements is correct? The waste generator has to segregate waste into 5 categories. The rules are applicable to notified urban local bodies, notified towns and all industry townships only. The rules provide for exact and elaborate criteria for identification of sites for landfills and waste processing facilities. It is mandatory on the part of the waste generator that the waste generated in one district cannot be moved to another district. See, of course, the option C would be the right answer, because the first one we have seen it is 3 categories, and second one and the last one are 2 extreme statements. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give a like, comment and a share. And to further not to miss any other content, subscribe to our channel. Thank you and have a great day.